People always say you just know when something's wrong. I didn't. Not at first. My name is Nathan. I've been married to Isabel for nearly 6 years. We met in our late 20s, both coming out of long relationships, both looking for something real. With her, it felt different. There was a softness in the way she spoke, a thoughtfulness in her eyes that made you believe she'd never hurt anyone. I fell fast. So did she. Or at least that's what I believed. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but whose is? We had routines. Coffee in the morning, gym in the evening, movie nights every Friday, dinner with her parents once a month. Isabel worked in interior design. I ran a consulting agency. We weren't the Instagram couple, but we were solid, quietly consistent, until the day I saw that text. It was a Tuesday morning. She'd left her phone on the kitchen counter while getting ready upstairs. I was pouring coffee when the screen lit up. I still think about us. Lucas, the name didn't register right away. Lucas, I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. My gut had already opened something much deeper, a door I didn't even know existed. And behind that door, panic, confusion, hurt. A million questions. I put the phone down like it was on fire. My heart was racing. I felt sick. When Isabel came back downstairs, she smiled like nothing was wrong. She kissed my cheek. "Morning," she said casually, grabbing her keys. "Got a client meeting in Soho. Should be back before 7. And just like that, she was gone. I stared at the front door for a full minute. Then I picked up her phone. Again. Locked. Of course. I'd never needed to know her passcode before. We trusted each other. At least I did. I didn't go to work that day. I called in sick and sat on the living room couch, trying to make sense of what I saw. Who was Lucas? The name finally clicked. Isabel had mentioned him once, early in our relationship. Her ex from college. We were together for years, she'd told me back then. But it ended badly. He cheated on me. I haven't talked to him in forever. Forever was apparently shorter than I thought. I debated whether to confront her that night. But something told me not to. Not yet. I needed clarity. Proof. Not just suspicion. So I waited. The next few days were torture. She acted normal, laughing at shows we watched, asking about my day, texting me during work with memes and little "I love you" messages. If it was an act, it was convincing, but my mind wouldn't. Let it go. Saturday morning, she left her phone unlocked while showering. I know how that sounds. I know I crossed a line. But betrayal doesn't make you noble. It makes you desperate. I opened her messages. She had deleted the thread with Lucas. But in the recently deleted section, one message still lingered. "It felt strange seeing you again, but also familiar. You've changed. So have I. But part of me still wonders." I froze. My chest tightened. My hands shook. She saw him? This wasn't just some nostalgic text from an ex. They had met. Recently. And she hadn't told me. I closed the phone and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor for what felt like an hour. When she came out of the shower, towel wrapped, around her hair, she smiled. "Want to grab brunch?" I smiled back. Sure. But inside, I was unraveling. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, watching the ceiling, listening to her soft breathing beside me. My mind played out 100 versions of what might have happened. A lunch, a coffee, something more. The worst part wasn't imagining them together. The worst part was realizing she hadn't told me. She chose to hide it. That meant something happened that she didn't want me to know. That meant trust. The quiet thread that held everything together was beginning to tear. I decided to confront her. But not with anger. I needed to know the truth. All of it. The next day, Sunday evening, we were watching a movie on the couch. She was curled up next to me, head on my shoulder, her hand in mine. The intimacy felt fake now, like watching someone play my wife. "Hey," I said quietly. "Can I ask you something?" She looked up. "Yeah?" Have you been in touch? With Lucas? The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Her body tensed, her eyes darted, and then she said it. Yes. Just one word. But it shattered me. Yes, she said. And just like that, the air between us shifted. The softness disappeared. The warmth of the blanket we were sharing turned cold. She sat up slightly, brushing her hair behind her ear like she needed a second to regroup. I didn't speak. I just stared at her, waiting for the rest. She avoided my eyes. How long? I asked quietly. She took a breath. A few months. A few months. I nodded slowly, not out of agreement, just trying to keep my breathing steady. So, what? He reached out? You just decided to catch up with an old ex? It wasn't like that, she said quickly. It started with an email. Totally random. He said he was moving back to the city, that he saw one of my designs featured in an architecture magazine. He congratulated me, that's all. I raised an eyebrow. That's all? At first, she admitted. Of course. At first, she continued. I didn't respond right away. But I don't know. I was curious. He was a big part of my life once, and I guess part of me wanted to see who he'd become, if he'd changed. And? I asked, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. Had he? She hesitated. Yeah, she whispered. He seemed more grounded, more mature. I clenched my jaw. So you met up? She nodded. Coffee, just once at first. Then again, a few weeks later. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice cracked. Because I knew how it would look. But I swear, Nathan, nothing happened during those first few meetings. I didn't even hug him. I leaned back. But it didn't stop. There, she was silent. I pressed. Did you sleep with him? Her hands were shaking now. She clasped them together in her lap like she was trying to hold herself together. Once. The word hit like a punch. One syllable. One time. One betrayal. Too many. I stood up, pacing across the living room, trying to keep the storm inside from exploding. She sat frozen on the couch, her knees pulled up, like she was bracing for impact. When? I asked. 2 months ago, she said, barely audible. Where? A hotel downtown. I laughed bitterly. Classy. She winced. I didn't plan for it to happen, Nathan. I didn't even know I was capable of something like that. That makes 2 of us. I ended it right after, she added quickly. I told him never to contact me again. I blocked his number. I deleted everything, except the part of you that still wonders about him. Her face broke then, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't wonder anymore. I know. I was wrong. I hurt you. I hurt us. And I don't expect you to forgive me, but I couldn't. Keep lying. I stared at her, not knowing what to say, because the thing was, I believed her. That's what made it worse. I believed she regretted it. I believed she didn't love him. But I also believed she'd made a choice, a deliberate, conscious choice to betray me. And believing she was sorry didn't undo the fact that she'd done it in the first place. How do you expect me to live with this? I asked. To look at you and not see him? She shook her head. I don't expect anything, but I'm here. I'll do whatever it takes. If you need space, I'll give it. If you need time, I'll wait. But Nathan, please believe me when I say I never stopped loving you. I let that sink in. You loved me, I said quietly, but you didn't choose me. She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't, because she knew I was right. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I took a pillow and blanket and lay on the couch. She didn't try to stop me. She just stood in the hallway for a while, watching me with those red, tired eyes, before walking back into the bedroom. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering how something so solid could fall apart so quietly. No shouting, no slammed doors, just a slow, quiet erosion of trust. I thought about all the little things. Late nights at the office, the sudden interest in going out with friends, the way she used to leave her phone face up and now flipped it over. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. I remembered our wedding vows. Whatever storms may come, I'll stay. But what if the storm wasn't from outside? What if it was her? The next morning, I packed a small bag. Just essentials. Toothbrush. A few. Shirts. Laptop. I didn't say much, just that I needed space to think. She nodded. Didn't argue. She didn't cry either. It was like she knew she'd already used up all her tears. Before I walked out the door, she said something that stayed with me. If you never come back, I'll understand. But if you do, I'll be here. Not as the woman who cheated, but as the woman who's trying to become better than that. I didn't respond. I just walked away. But as I closed the door behind me, a strange, bitter thought crept in. It's not the betrayal that hurts most. It's realizing the person you trusted most could look you in the eye and still lie. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't yell. I didn't throw her phone across the room or demand answers I already had. I just walked out, quietly, like I was leaving a meeting that had run too long, like I didn't want to disturb the neighbors, but inside, I was collapsing. The moment the door clicked shut behind me, the silence felt heavier than anything I'd ever known. I stood there on the front porch, holding my duffel bag, watching the morning light hit the sidewalk, and for the first time in years, I had no idea where to go. It wasn't just about leaving the apartment. I was leaving the version of my life that I thought was real. I stayed at a hotel that night, a business class one near downtown. Nothing fancy, but clean and quiet. The receptionist didn't even look up when I gave her my ID. She didn't know I was a man carrying the weight of a marriage imploding in slow motion. I dropped my bag, collapsed on the bed, and stared at the ceiling for hours. I couldn't cry. I couldn't sleep. I just kept replaying the same moment. Her eyes, her confession, her saying I didn't stop loving you. But love, I realized, wasn't just a feeling. It was a choice, and she didn't choose me when it mattered. That's what hurt the most. The next few days blurred together. I didn't go to work. My team handled things. I had built the kind of company that could survive without me for a while. I told them I needed a short sabbatical. Didn't offer details. Most of them didn't ask. I appreciated that. I thought a lot about calling someone. My brother, maybe. My best friend from college. But I didn't. I didn't want pity. I didn't want lectures. I didn't want someone to tell me to man up or leave her for good. I wanted quiet. I wanted to hear myself think. So I stayed off social media, ignored calls from unknown numbers, turned off message previews. I just existed in silence. But silence, I learned, can be cruel, because in the quiet, the memories come. I remembered our first vacation together, the time Isabel got food poisoning in Italy, and I held her hair back all night, the way she clung to me afterward and whispered, "I've never felt safer." I remembered the night she got the job offer from that luxury design firm, and we popped champagne in our pajamas. I remembered how we used to read in bed, side by side, legs tangled under the sheets, sometimes not saying a word for an hour, but knowing we were exactly where we belonged. Were those moments real, or had they always been resting on a fault line I just never saw? On the third night away, she texted me, "I hope you're safe. I'm not reaching out to ask for anything. Just wanted you to know. I'm thinking of you." I didn't reply. She didn't text again, and I appreciated that. I wasn't ready, but her silence, it wasn't angry, it was respectful. It was the silence of someone who finally understood the damage they'd done. A week passed, then another. I extended my hotel stay twice. I started going for long walks at night, no destination. I'd pass coffee shops we used to visit, see couples laughing over drinks, and feel a weird sense of detachment, like I was watching someone else's life. Sometimes I wondered what Isabel was doing. Was she crying, sleeping, going to work like normal? I imagined her on our couch, the one we picked out together, staring at the door I hadn't come back through. I imagined her holding that coffee mug I bought her in Portland, the one with the cracked handle she refused to throw away. Did she feel empty too? One night, I walked past a park where a jazz trio was playing under string lights. A small crowd had gathered. I sat on a bench nearby, letting the music wash over me. It was the first time I'd felt something like peace in weeks. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app, and I started writing. Not to her, not yet. Just to myself, I wrote everything I couldn't say aloud. She cheated, she lied, but she also looked me in the eye and told me the truth. What do I do with that? Is it weakness to still love someone who broke you? Or strength to love yourself enough to walk away? Can something that's cracked ever be stronger than before? I didn't know, but writing made it real, and real was better than numb. The next morning, I called my therapist. I hadn't seen her in over a year, not since the anxiety attacks during COVID lockdowns. Her voice was calm, steady. I need help. Figuring out what to do, I told her. You're already doing it, she said. You're pausing, you're processing. That's more than most people allow themselves. I'm scared, I admitted. Of what? Of making the wrong decision. She paused, then said something I'll never forget. There's no right decision. There's only the one that lets you live with yourself. I wasn't ready to forgive Isabel, but I also wasn't ready to hate her. And that's when I knew I needed clarity. Not just about her, about me. What kind of man did I want to be after betrayal? Because no matter what happened next, I couldn't go back to being the man. There's something strange that happens when your world falls apart. You either break or you build. I chose to build. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted to become some better version to make her regret losing me. I did it because, for the first time in years, I was forced to stand alone. No wife, no safety net, no script to follow. Just me. And a mirror. The first thing I did was rent a loft. Small, a little rough around the edges, but full of natural light. It had creaky floors, exposed brick, and a kind of rawness I liked. Honest, unpolished, just like me. I filled it with silence. No TV, no music, just the sound of my thoughts echoing off the walls. At first that terrified me, but eventually it became something else. Clarity, I signed up for a boxing gym 2 blocks away. I needed somewhere to put the anger, the doubt, the pain. The first session, I got winded after 2 rounds of jabs and nearly puked during the warm-up. But I kept coming back. There was something cathartic about the rhythm. Gloves hitting the bag, sweat dripping down my neck, the sting in my shoulders. I started eating better, sleeping deeper, moving like a man who was no longer drowning in grief but swimming through it with purpose. It didn't fix me, but it reminded me that I wasn't broken beyond repair. Work took off too. I threw myself into my agency, rebranded it, took on bolder clients, pitched riskier ideas. Without Isabel to balance or soften my decisions, I leaned into instinct. It paid off. I landed a major contract with a global firm, hired 2 new strategists, even got invited to speak at a conference, something I used to turn down because I didn't want to travel without her. But now I welcomed the distance. One evening, a month after moving out, I was at a rooftop mixer after work. Someone introduced me to a woman named Riley. She had sharp eyes, easy confidence, and a laugh that didn't try too hard. We talked for hours, not about pain or betrayal or the mess of marriage, just life. It felt good to be seen, to be desired, without history weighing it down. I didn't tell her about Isabel. Not that night. Maybe not for a while. Because for once, I wasn't trying to explain myself to someone. I was just trying to be myself. But even as I built this new life, Isabel lingered in the corners of my mind. She didn't text me, didn't call. She honored the space I'd asked for, and strangely, that made me miss her more. Not in a romantic way, but in a what-if kind of way. What if we had communicated better? What if she had told me when the first message from Lucas arrived? What if I had asked more questions instead of assuming everything was fine? But the what-ifs didn't matter anymore, because we weren't the same people, and I wasn't the same man. 3 months after I left, Isabel emailed me. Just a subject. Line, no expectations. Just the truth. I opened it, half expecting manipulation or guilt. But it was simple. Nathan, I've been in therapy twice a week. I've been journaling, reading, sitting with the silence you left behind. I used to think I cheated because something was broken between us. But the truth is, I cheated because something was broken in me. You didn't deserve it. You didn't cause it. And I'm not writing to ask for another chance. I just want you to know. I see it now. I see you. And if nothing else, I hope you're becoming the man you were always meant to be. Isabel, I read it 3 times, then closed my laptop and sat in silence. She wasn't chasing me. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was finally owning what she did, and somehow that mattered more than any apology ever could. A week later, I ran into her. It was at a bookstore, the same one we used to visit on Sunday mornings. She was standing in the self-help section, holding a book titled Rebuilding After Ruin. Fitting. She saw me and froze. "Nathan," she said, almost breathless. I gave a small nod. "Isabel." She looked different. Not in a bad way, just softer, humble, grounded. We talked for 5 minutes, just 5, catching up. Smiles, no tears. Before we parted, she said something that stayed with me. "You look strong." And for the first time, I believed her, because I wasn't the man she cheated on anymore. I was the man she could never reach again. It had been 5 months since I walked out of our apartment and never looked back. I hadn't spoken to Isabel since our brief encounter at the bookstore. There were no follow-up texts, no cryptic emails, no awkward late-night calls. She'd honored my silence, and I respected her for that. I had moved on, or at least I thought I had. My life was full now. I had a routine, a growing business, new people around me. Even Riley had become a quiet presence in my life, though we both agreed we were taking things slow. No expectations, no pressure. Just 2 people walking beside each other for a while. So when Isabel showed up at my office on a rainy Thursday afternoon, I wasn't ready. I saw her through the glass first. She was standing in the lobby, holding something in her hands, small, wrapped in a scarf. Her hair was damp from the rain, and she looked hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she should be here. I stepped out into the hall before the receptionist could ask anything. "Isabel?" I asked. She turned. "Hi," she said, voice soft. "I'm sorry to show up like this. I won't take long." I nodded slowly. "Come in." I led her into my office and closed the door. We stood in silence for a moment. Then she held out the bundle in her hands and carefully unwrapped it. It was my wedding ring, the one I left behind on the dresser that morning. "I moved out. I found this while cleaning," she said. "I kept it, in case you wanted it someday. But I realized it's not mine to keep." She placed it gently on my desk. The gold looked dull in the dim light, like something that had lost its shine. I stared at it for a long time. "Thank you," I finally said. She gave a small nod, like that was all she came to do. But she didn't leave. She sat across from me, and for a moment, we were just 2 people on opposite sides of a desk. No longer husband and wife, but still tethered by something invisible. "I'm not here to ask for another chance," she said. "I want you to know that up front." I said nothing, just waited. I've been working on myself, she continued. Really working. Therapy, reflection, all the things people say they're doing when they want to look better from the outside. But for me, it's been internal, private, quiet. Her voice cracked a little. I needed to understand why I let someone from my past take away everything I built with you. And I did. I know now. She looked me in the eye. It wasn't because of what you lacked. It was because I didn't believe I was worthy of what you gave. I swallowed hard. That hit deeper than I expected. She took a breath, steadied herself. I think, somewhere deep down, I believed the love we had was too good, that I couldn't hold on to it. So I sabotaged it before you could leave me first. I leaned back, arms crossed. You really thought I'd leave you? She gave a sad smile. You were good to me, Nathan. Kind, solid. But part of me never trusted that someone like you would stay with someone like me forever. Lucas, he wasn't safe. He was chaos, but he was familiar. I let that sink in. It didn't justify what she did, but it explained it. And sometimes, explanations hurt more than lies. We sat in silence for a while after that. The rain tapping gently against the windows. Somewhere in the office, a phone rang and was quickly answered. Life moved on outside that room. But inside, time felt frozen. Finally, I asked, "So why now?" She looked at the ring on the table. Because I needed to let go. Of you. Of the guilt. Of the idea that I might still be holding a piece of something that isn't mine anymore. She stood up, smoothing her coat. I don't expect closure, but I wanted you to know. I'm okay now. And I hope you are too. She turned to leave. But just before she opened the door, I said, "Isabel." She paused. "I believe you," I said. "About the work. About who you're becoming." She blinked fast, nodded once, then walked away. I didn't pick up the ring for days. It just sat there on my desk, a quiet reminder of everything we were, everything we broke, and everything we survived. But eventually, I held it in my palm and whispered a simple truth. You are not who I am anymore. And I let it go. 3 weeks passed. I thought that would be the last time I saw her. The rain-soaked visit, the ring on my desk, the quiet goodbye. It felt final. It was supposed to be final. But healing, I've learned, doesn't always respect our timelines. One afternoon, I got a call from Marcus, my oldest friend, who happened to be hosting a mutual friend's birthday dinner. "Look, man," he said, hesitant. "Isabel might be there. I didn't know until last minute. If it's too weird, don't come. I get it." I hesitated. I hadn't seen her in any social setting since the affair. I hadn't even imagined what that would feel like. But something inside me, call it curiosity, closure, or just courage, told me to go. "I'll be fine," I told him. And I meant it. The restaurant was small and warm, lit with amber light and filled with low conversation. The kind of place where you couldn't hide, but also didn't need to. I walked in, and I saw her instantly. She hadn't seen me yet. She was laughing at something, hand resting on the stem of a wineglass. Her posture relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. There was no desperation in her eyes, no sadness leaking out at the edges. She looked whole. It was jarring, because the Isabel I left was broken. But this Isabel had clearly done her work, and so had I. Our eyes met a few minutes later. She offered a soft smile. No wave, no awkward gestures, just acknowledgement. We didn't talk much during the dinner, surrounded by others, but as the night ended and people filtered out, she approached me as I stood outside waiting for my ride. "Hey," she said. "Hey." The street was quiet. A gentle breeze stirred. The city hummed in the background like it always does when something personal is unfolding. "Can we walk a bit?" she asked. I nodded. We walked in silence for a few blocks, neither of us rushing to fill the space. The air between us wasn't tense. It was open, like an old book being reopened, not to continue, but to finally read the page we'd skipped. "I'm glad you came," she said. "So am I." She hesitated. "I've had 1,000 versions of this conversation in my head," she admitted. "All the things I should have said. All the things I shouldn't have done." I glanced at her. "Me too." She looked surprised. I continued. "I wasn't perfect either, Isabel. I was present, yes, I was faithful. But I think somewhere along the way, I stopped asking you how you were really doing. I assumed you were okay because you never said otherwise." She blinked slowly. "You didn't cause what I did." "I know," I replied. "But I also know relationships don't fall apart overnight. And maybe I was so focused on holding it all together, I didn't see where you were cracking." She let that sit between us. Then she said, "I blamed you for a while, quietly. Told myself if you were more passionate or more jealous, maybe I'd feel more wanted." "That's unfair," I said, gently but firmly. "I know. It wasn't about you. It was about me not feeling enough, and instead of dealing with it, I tried to validate myself through someone I should have left in the past." We paused at a crosswalk. The city lights washed over her face. She looked tired, but it was the kind of tired that comes after a long run. You're breathless, but proud of the distance you've covered. "I still think about us," she said. "Not in a romantic way. Just as a chapter. A beautiful, painful, formative chapter." I nodded. "Same." She turned to face me. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't cheated?" "All the time," I said honestly. "But wondering doesn't change what did happen." She smiled sadly. "No, it doesn't." We reached a quiet corner where the city fell into hush. A bookstore closed for the night. The reflection of streetlights on damp pavement. It was the kind of place where endings feel gentle. "I'm not here to ask you back," she said. "I know. I just want to say, really say, thank you for how you handled it. You could have destroyed me. You didn't. You could have dragged me online, with friends, at work. But you left with dignity, and that gave me space to grow." I looked at her. "Thank you," I said, "for not chasing me, for giving me space to breathe." She exhaled slowly. We stood there, two people with nothing left to hide, no more secrets, no more guilt, just the truth. Before we said goodbye, she reached into her coat pocket and handed me a small folded paper. "What's this?" I asked. "A poem I found. It reminded me of us." I unfolded it and read the last line aloud. "Some loves don't last forever, but they last long enough to teach us how to love better next time." She smiled. I smiled back. And with that, we hugged. Not as lovers, not even as friends, but as two people who had once shared everything and now had finally shared the truth. Forgiveness is strange. People think it means pretending nothing happened, letting someone off the hook, forgetting the pain like it was never real. But that's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is choosing to remember and still choosing peace over punishment. It's finally being able to breathe without needing an apology every time you exhale. And for me, forgiving Isabel didn't mean going back. It meant letting go. After our walk that night, I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I didn't replay our conversation 100 times in my head. I just went home. Riley was there, curled up on the couch, reading with her glasses sliding down her nose. She looked up when I walked in and smiled. "Hey, hey." I sat beside her, resting my hand on her knee, and for the first time, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time. Present. I wasn't haunted anymore. I never told Riley every detail about Isabel. Not because I was hiding it, just because she never asked for the story. Only the version of me that came after the storm. And maybe that's what I needed. Someone who didn't meet the man still bleeding, but the man who chose to heal. Over time, things with Riley grew naturally. No drama, no intensity that burned too fast. Just warmth, honesty, comfort. I didn't compare her to Isabel, because she wasn't a replacement. She was a new beginning. Isabel and I exchanged 1 or 2 emails over the next few months. Birthday wishes. A shared memory sent like a postcard from a different life. There was no bitterness in our words, no hidden hopes, just respect. We never saw each other again after that walk. Not because we were avoiding each other, but because we didn't need to. The door had been closed, not slammed, just gently pulled shut. And in doing that, we created something rare, a clean ending. One day, while organizing old boxes, I found our wedding photo. We looked young, happy, like we knew nothing about the hard parts of love. I didn't tear it up. I didn't cry. I just smiled. Because that version of us, however brief, was real too. And just because it didn't last forever doesn't mean it wasn't meaningful. That love taught me how to show up, how to give, how to lose, and how to survive. And in a strange way, it prepared me to be better in the love that came next. I kept the wedding ring for a while, not as a symbol of failure, but as a reminder of growth. Then, one summer afternoon, I walked down to the pier near my loft. I stood at the edge, the city skyline in the distance, and held the ring in my palm. It was warm from the sun. I whispered, "Thank you." Then I dropped it into the water, watched the ripples spread, and walked away. People ask me now, friends, sometimes strangers, who hear bits of my story, would you ever take her back? Do you still love her? Don't you regret walking away? My answer is always the same. I forgave her. But I didn't go back. Not because I couldn't, but because I grew past the place where we existed together. Because sometimes love is a chapter, not the whole book. The last message I ever got from Isabel came about a year later. I saw you, in a photo online, at the conference in Chicago. You looked peaceful. I hope that means you are. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask to meet. She didn't have to. She already knew. And so did I.